So, y'all, thank you for joining us on your break and watching the replay when you get an opportunity to. But I'm going to keep looking over here because I wrote some notes down. But Danny and I, when we do get a chance to connect and talk about things, we always share stories or just experiences, and we help each other through like the tough stuff of being an entrepreneur, running a business, but the things that we're going to talk about really can translate into your personal lives. And so one of the things that we talk about a lot is like people, peopling, and how when you own a business, you have to navigate things that you're going through right outside of the actual business. But then there's like dealing with people on this side who are also dealing with some things, but then you're coming together for this business transaction. And sometimes navigating that can be challenging. And so we thought it would be a great opportunity to talk about some boundary building blocks, which we would love for you to also add any building blocks that you think would be helpful or that you've used. But Danny, I'm going to go through 5 and I want to get your take on them, and then you add whatever you want to add.
Okay.
So one of the things I was reading about is making sure that when you're setting boundaries, there's clear communication.
Yes.
And clear communication means that as an entrepreneur, a person, period, you articulate your needs, expectations, and limits to your team, your clients, your partners, whoever, but you have to be clear in your communication. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would for sure agree with that. I think sometimes when it comes to communication, there's a process to getting to being a good communicator, right?
Yeah.
I think people that are like naturally great communicators, and like sometimes we feel like we've communicated something to someone, but it's a like communication is a two-way street, right? Like it's not just what we have said or what we have thought we said, like it's also how the other person like receives it. So
right.
that is something that I've also had to learn, because I communicate in a very like straightforward type of way. But people don't always like receive that. And it also depends on like how they learn things and how they are, like how they typically communicate themselves or how they've learned to communicate in the past. Like, people don't always communicate in the same way, and so I've had to learn to like maneuver the way that I communicate with different people so that the job actually gets done in the way that it should get done. So I definitely like clear communication, but understanding how people communicate is also important.
That's very important. And for me, I always communicated from a place which blurred lines, professionally and personally, a lot, with so much emotion.
Yeah.
Like I was just, I want to do this for you. And, oh no, don't worry about it. Lowering your prices, like all that type of stuff we talk about, right? Just wanting to do such a great job that you overextend yourself, because not only are words a way that you communicate, but that is also to tone.
Yeah.
How much emotion you put into it. Not saying that you have to be cold with your clients or cold with somebody, but all of that communicates something, right? You're setting an expectation there's a balance between being professional and wanting to do a great job for your client or your team or whatever. And so the way you communicate really helps. And like you said, the way learning how they communicate too, how they hear things, and really opening the door to say, to acknowledge, I think setting the expectation of acknowledging how your client is feeling or what they said. Oh, what I heard you say is whatever. Then they go, oh, okay, so that's how she communicates. So, Danny, what I heard you say is, not saying that everybody's going to pick that up, but it's worth a try.
Right. Absolutely. I think when it comes to projects and like getting things done, because like at the core of business is like completing projects, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to get things done at the end of the day.
Yes.
I think it's helpful when one person is kind of like the leader in the process of that communication. Like, so one thing that I think I was telling you when we were chatting, I'm working on a project now with a bunch of other people, and okay, we jump on our meetings. Like, they love a good 45-minute meeting, hour meeting, and no one really like walks away with action items. Like, we just kind of sat there and heard ourselves talk, and
Yeah.
but nobody knows what to do next. And so we started like creating documents with minutes of meetings. Okay, when we discuss XYZ, what is the next step that is expected before we get on another call and have nothing done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helps to just structure, like it aligns everyone, whether or not they communicate very well or don't communicate very well or have different levels of understanding.
Yeah.
I think it helps align everyone on these are the things that need to get done regardless of your communication style.
Absolutely. I really agree with that. So, number one, y'all, to build, like, as far as building blocks for creating and setting healthy boundaries, it's clear communication.
Yes.
Okay. And if you're not clear when someone else is communicating with you, it's okay to ask can you clarify that, just to make sure I understand where you're coming from, because you want the other person, whether it's your client, your partner, someone on your team, to also know that they're being heard. So, another thing for entrepreneurs, especially, is, but anyone, of course, can add this to their toolbox of setting boundaries: prioritization and delegation. So we kind of fall into this thing where we take on everything, right? We're like, because when you're first starting, you are the sales department, you are marketing, you're doing like bookkeeping. Whoo, Lord, listen, words, that's my ministry. But numbers,
That's not
y'all,
where.
mm-mm,
Okay, don't give us no spreadsheets and be trying. That's not. Just tell us,
no.
make how much do we owe, how much remaining. That's all I care about.
I'm trying to tell you, because I was like, what am I doing? But we want to, so when we first start off, unless you have the capital, right? You're starting off alone and you're used to doing everything, and the business is truly your baby. But then as you begin to grow, it really is beneficial to start delegating, and actually, even with finances, right? Start preparing for, like, I need help. I can't do this on my own. So I don't care if I get an intern or whatever. I need to prioritize and delegate, because that's actually setting a boundary with yourself,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So what has been, is delegating difficult for you? Because it's a little difficult for me.
Yes. Delegating is very difficult for me now. I've tried. The thing is, I've been burnt so many
Yeah.
times because delegating to the wrong people and delegating in urgency. Like, oh, we
Mm,
like tomorrow to do this thing. So let me just go find anybody that I know, or a friend of a friend or whatever. And it comes from like just the urgency of a project or urgency of whatever to get something done.
yeah.
And I delegate in those types of times because it's recipe for disaster. Like, I'm also, I kind of have slowly gotten out of the idea that like if it has to be right, like I'm not gonna do it right. Other people can do things right too.
Yeah. Yep.
They can do a good job. They can even do a better job than me. And it's just a matter of, it goes back to the first point, like communicating what is the job that you expect, right? So I've had to do a better job of like writing things out because
Yeah.
I'm a speaker. And I can write clearly, but to talk it out is like a very different level of communication for
Mm-hmm.
me. And so delegating to people, I've had to like, okay, have meetings and then let me go send you an email because I know that I can be really clear at that email and you might have misheard me when I said something but actually meant something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I delegation is very useful and very helpful, but
Yeah.
now because
It's hard for me too.
it's always one or two of those people as well.
Yeah.
So you just have to like, okay, I'm going to not delegate to people in urgency or when something is due immediately or tomorrow or next week, but take the time to actually onboard someone in a proper way.
Yes. Oh, that's big. That's big.
Yeah.
Because last year, the end of last year, and I think we talked about this when I was experiencing some growth towards the
Mm-hmm.
end of last year, which was like a nightmare of a time for many different reasons. I was like, what is going on? I had people always saying, hey, pass this over to me. Like, I can do that for you. I have the expertise in that, but it was very hard. It's not that I didn't trust them. It was hard because I was already doing it. But oh my gosh, it was to be able to give. I think I was stuck on the fact that, I love this person and they're so awesome, but maybe they don't get my vision.
Mm-hmm.
So to trust that when I passed that off. So instead, what I did was burnt myself out.
Burnt out.
Like I was ready to drop all my clients, give them their money back. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't publish this book. Like it was so much because I wasn't able. I don't think I was. It's not so much that I wasn't willing.
Mm-hmm.
Just mentally, I was kind of stuck and I wasn't able to really let go. And I was kind of already in it. So prioritizing and delegating is not always easy. And but it's necessary, especially if you want your business to grow. If you're cool with where it's at, that's fine. And please don't let anybody make you feel bad for being like where you are. You're like, I can manage this. I want to stay here. I'm cool with being a solopreneur. I have the skills to do all these things. If that's you and you're there, amazing. I know for me, as I just kept saying, I really want this thing to grow, but I knew that I couldn't do it by myself. Like I needed people who were smarter than me in spreadsheets and Excel and, all those types of things. So so prioritization and delegation. So the next one is technology boundaries. Setting boundaries. We both smiled on that one.
Don't call me at nighttime. Call my phone.
Right?
No.
On the weekends. Don't do that.
Not even, not even, don't call me at all. Send an email or text message. Don't ring my number. Mm-mm.
Please. Yeah. Don't do that. And don't do that. And then, so clients, you got to set boundaries with them, right? You have to be like, okay, I know when I first got started, I gave you my number, but now,
here's the thing that I feel I had to start doing. So of course, when you start out,
yeah,
you don't have all the resources or all the knowledge and things, processes in place. So when I started out, I just had a personal cell phone, right?
Mm.
But that's the number for friends, family, cousins, grandma. That's the number for everybody.
Yeah.
Eventually get a business cell phone, which is somewhere. Oh, right here. Another phone that is strictly for business and that has business hours and a completely separate number, not at all tied to me, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that has helped to separate, because people, they be calling on Saturday morning at 11 a.m., 9 o'clock p.m., it's a cell phone, so sending text messages at midnight. No, you're not getting you're getting an answer on the next business day.
Yeah.
So that and I do think that this expectation of small businesses to always be on and always available is a really unrealistic expectation.
Unrealistic and unhealthy. It's unhealthy. Yeah.
You're not gonna call Amazon.com on a Sunday evening and expect to get a reply because you returned a package. It doesn't work that way, right? And I think learning from some of the larger companies on how to ensure that clients communicate with you well and they understand the expectation, can be helpful as well. Just doing some of that research. When you call, when you call Amazon, first of all, you can't even call Amazon.
No.
Okay.
They're not even trying to get on the phone like that.
They just don't have time for that. So I think that type of how they're communicating, there are so many measures that you have to go through before you even get a phone call.
Yeah.
If you get one, I think is also important, because that trains clients to be okay, on your side, you don't have time to be on the phone either.
Right.
And wait 24 to 48 hours and you'll get a reply.
And that's on that.
I mean,
Because that instant reply and expectation as if you don't have a life outside of what you do. And it's crazy. I will also encourage you, because I had to work on this, is to set personal boundaries with technology yourself.
mm-hmm.
That email can wait.
Yes.
I had a friend of mine when I was working at Dell, and she said this, and I never forget it. And I always share this with people. But I would be like, well, she's like, well, you need to close your laptop. And I'm like, well, I need to respond to this. And she was like, well, but do you?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you close the laptop, that email is going to be there tomorrow.
It will.
And I would get off at 4 o'clock. So she was like, by 3 o'clock, start preparing to go home, like mentally. That's when I was in the office. She's like, start preparing to go home. Like, kind of maybe X out of your Outlook, maybe close out some things that you have on your Excel sheet or whatever, but start winding down, because this stuff is going to be here tomorrow. It's important for us to disconnect and allow time for rest and recuperation, because when you're dealing with people all day,
Mm-hmm.
it drains your energy, whether it's positive or negative, right? Because even like exciting things can drain your energy. You can still be like, gosh, I'm tired. There was a lot today. But when you have meetings back to back, or you have to meet people in person, like all of that, you owe it to yourself to stop communicating for a while. I told some friends of mine, we're in a thread together, and my responses are often short.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling one of them the other day, I was like, by the time we start texting, I'm so tired of
Yeah.
communicating. Like, so I might not send long paragraphs, but I am responding to because I've just been burnt out from communicating. So set those digital boundaries with your clients,
Yeah.
with your team, encouraging them to take ownership of the role that they have, and then also with yourself. So emotional boundaries. Oh, you want to say something about technical?
Back to the last point. So,
Yeah.
I do want to say that it can be challenging
Mm-hmm.
to actually setting those technology boundaries, because if you're a full-time entrepreneur, let's go to, if you are working your 9 to 5 and then go to your entrepreneurial business, it can be really difficult when you're first starting to like
Yeah.
put those boundaries in place and stick to them. And then if you're a full-time entrepreneur, whether you are a solopreneur or you have a small team, and people are dependent on you for paycheck every month or every 2 months,
Yeah.
it can also, you can feel like you constantly have to be going in order to make this thing work.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that at the end of the day, like, the world is still going to be turning in a circle, and it's okay for you to like not be on your phone,
Yeah.
or not feel like you got to be creating content everywhere you go, or not feel like, to your point, like you got to answer emails and DMs and all of those things, because they will still be there when you come back to your laptop. But I feel like in reality, it is challenging to actually make that a practice,
Yeah.
or when in the back of your head, like, you feel like there's so many things that you have to do.
Exactly. Which is why, to your point, with everything you just said, which is why it's important to set boundaries in that way. Because you have to because it is a lot to do. And you have to give yourself a chance to freaking think
Mhm.
and to breathe and to do something different. I compare it to smelling coffee grounds, right? When you smell a whole bunch of cologne and perfume, and like you smell the next one and you just can't smell it. It smells like everything else you smelled already. So it's like, you smell the coffee grounds and it kind of reset your senses, and you're like, you know what? Okay, now I can move
Yeah.
forward. But if you don't set those boundaries with yourself and with other people, then you are going to drive yourself crazy, and nothing will actually work in the business anyway, because you're so overwhelmed. You're not finishing tasks. Like, it's just a lot going on. So you're right, Danny. It's very challenging. It took me a long time to set technology boundaries with both the laptop, but also with my phone. But being present helps.
Yes, that is absolutely true. I think I'm still trying to find a good balance
Yeah.
in setting boundaries. So, I mean, all last week, like, I slept slept with my laptop right by the bed. Whereas before, for the last couple of weeks, I was like, okay, laptop stays in the office, and I leave my office and shut the door and go to my bedroom with no
Yeah.
computer, no anything. And I think it's like different seasons of work that it's like, okay, I have to be here. I have to make sure that this happens and that happens. But for sure, setting that as a boundary and saying, okay, these hours, no work,
Yeah.
is for sure healthy.
Yeah, and then taking small steps, like maybe set until you get used to it. Maybe on a Tuesday, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna shut the laptop down at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna shut the laptop down at 7 o'clock, and then back to the clear communication. I had to do that in my email reply. I don't know. I know people's getting tired of my automatic replies. But I actually scheduled a call with somebody and I fell in love with hers. And I even asked for permission to copy it because her thing came back and said, I do not work on Mondays and Fridays. Mondays are dedicated to this. Friday is dedicated to this. I only meet Tuesday and Thursday between these times. But the way she started it off, and I wish I had it up because I still have it on mine today. I think she said it was like in order to be present, it was like in order to be present for my family, to invest in my well-being, to be as creative as I can for my clients. You know, it was that kind of thing. This is what I have to do. Here's my schedule. So going back to the clear communication, setting the technology boundaries with yourself, yes, but with others, being clear in, okay, no, I'm sorry. Wednesdays are my days. That's my CEO day. I don't do anything on Wednesdays, but even if it pushes a meeting 2 weeks out, right? But being able to set those boundaries because you can't be available all the time and nor should you be. Yeah. Emotional boundaries. So this involves recognizing where your emotional responsibilities start and end, particularly in managing relationships with employees, clients, partners. Learning to say no and not feeling obligated to fulfill every request or solve every problem. That was a biggie for me.
Yeah, so I think when clients come to okay, so I want to take a step back. When it comes to like relationship building with clients, and that's a lot of times how they become your, because they know you, they feel like they know you because they follow you on social media, they like everything and share everything and all the things. I do truly feel like some clients feel like they are like you're their strategist, their therapist, their everything.
Yeah.
Like feel like when they talk to you, and I for some reason I feel like I'm not this way, but for some reason when I meet people, a good number of people, they just start telling me their whole life story just from right off the rip.
Yeah.
Like I was not prepared for all this. And so I like sometimes I find myself like praying for people.
Yeah.
Like giving motivational words of encouragement to them, giving them advice about their like relationships, their kids. I mean, I don't even have kids, but their kids. It becomes, it's almost like they feel like you're their person. I've had to, because I do have to get things done and there's so many things that I want to do. I've had to like cut meetings to like 30 minutes. You can only consult me for 30 minutes. Like, say what you got to say. Let's move on. And also telling people like I can't help you with certain things. Like I told you, a lady reached out to me from some networking group, and she was like, "I just love the work that you do. Like I need you to help me find a literary." That's not something I can help you with.
I don't do that, ma'am.
You can love all the work you want, but that's your piece, right? And I think it's also okay to not always have a referral because, like, I've never before, so I can't help you. Neither can I refer you to anyone, right? Because I've never worked with a literary agent, and so that was the first, because I'm so used to just saying yes and just always trying to help everybody.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the fewer times that I've been like, I can't help you. Like, zero help here. You gotta go find somebody
And
else. Like,
that's real. Like it would be it's more, I think I would appreciate that more, saying I don't know anyone. I'm sorry, I can't help you, than for you to just throw me to somebody that, like, just Google somebody and just then I have a hard, like, being honest
mm-hmm.
about it. And also to your point about the emotional stuff, like when you're talking to clients, I also had to do the same thing with moving meetings from an hour to 30 minutes. That way the conversation is productive as far as what we're talking about. Not that you don't want to get to know people, but what I was finding was it was affecting my creative flow. Like if you're on the phone with someone and they're telling you something, you're in the midst of a project and you're telling us, and you are just feeling
Yeah.
it. Like when you get off, you are feeling it. You're like, oh my gosh. Then you start to feel bad, especially for me, with my, and all my people pleasingness of not being able to help them or solve it. So I would be feeling so bad. And then like now I'm all like trying to
Or,
work from bed. Yeah, it was just too much. And it's not that you don't care, but you know yourself. And if that's a boundary that you need to set in order to like protect where you are at the moment, it does not mean that maybe sometimes you think about this person, y'all might not do any business together, but you've had this conversation and you know, then you come across something and maybe you send them an article, hey, thinking of you, hey, check this out, whatever. You're still helping, but you're setting the emotional boundary to make sure that you can still get things done.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I will say, so when I was in college, very unguided process of going through college, by the way. Um, I my major was in psychology, and I intended or was going to major in marriage and family therapy. And I did all the coursework, all the little book knowledge and essay writing, all that stuff. And it got to like the last class before you have to like go and do your practicum hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to be a role play, but it was supposed to be hypothetical, like
Mm.
hypothetical situations. And people were bringing, like the students were bringing their real life problem into the role play. And I
Mm.
think that is the first instance where I was like, okay, I do enjoy helping people, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the emotional compassion all the time
Mm-hmm.
to be empathetic to all day, every day, just hearing problems. So
Yeah.
that's like one of the things that like pushed me out of counseling, because I was like, this is not. I enjoy helping people, but not in this manner.
Yeah.
Like I can pray for you, but also, I mean, I think the boundary setting is important because you don't want to take people's emotional problems with you throughout the week.
Ooh, and that was hard for me not
That and
to.
that's what, like, I was thinking about those students, like what they were telling me, because it's a role play. Like, I'm supposed to be the counselor and they're supposed to be the patient or whatever. And I was thinking about, like, I still think about one girl and what she like her real life situation. She was literally bawling,
Yeah.
and so for me not to carry your, like, all the things you're telling me throughout the week, I need for you to keep this meeting to 30 minutes.
But you know what? But that's okay because you are emotionally aware.
Yes. Yeah.
You know yourself. You know that there is a limit for you, which we all do have one,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know,
Yeah.
there are people that can listen to other people's emotional
Endlessly.
situations and like, yeah, endlessly. And they're called therapists. Like they, you know what I'm saying? Like they go to school for that and they, you know, my therapist was just amazing. She could take what I was telling her and feel for me,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
use some of the examples that's happened in her life, but she never, you can tell she never really took it on. It was like, okay, here's the exercise, here's your homework, this is what we're going to talk about next time, we're going to talk about values. But she was just so like me. I'd be a horrible therapist. I'd be wanting to beat up people's husbands. Like,
You
yeah,
invested. Like, so where we need to pull up at? Like,
yeah. Where are we pulling up? Like, I'm showing up at your kids' schools. Like, I'm slapping teachers. Like, I'm doing all the things because emotionally, it was just too much for me. So that's not my thing. You know what I'm saying? But what I can do is I can send you a quote. I can send you a scripture. I can check on you. I can send you an article. We can, a lot of my clients have become friends.
mm-hmm.
We know the line though between the personal and the professional. Sometimes they blur because sometimes we talk about personal things that's happening that's causing us not to be productive professionally. But with them, because I've built that relationship, it does not get in the way of me being productive. With people I don't know and haven't built that with, sometimes it can get in the way. So, y'all, set emotional boundaries. Of course, in your personal relationships, right? Which can also affect how productive you are professionally, not just the professional boundaries. But the last one I have is physical and mental health boundaries. So, doing things like what we talked about, which all of these things that we're talking about affect each other. So, for example, how we talked about going to sleep with the laptop, which I have done. I just slept with the laptop next to my bed last night so that I can roll over this morning and start tippy tapping on the laptop because I forgot to send something or finish something last night. But the whole time that it was plugged up,
Mm-hmm.
the little charger piece was lit up. So I didn't, every time I woke up last night or like super early this morning, I'm kind of looking down because so I didn't get the best sleep
Right.
last night. I'm crunk on caffeine right now. So it's like physical and mental boundaries. Doing things like setting those boundaries so that you can sleep,
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing and delegating so that you do have time to go walking,
Right.
that so that you can wake up and go to yoga or like whatever it is that you need to do so that you do wake up early enough to meditate, to pray, to read the word, whatever it is that you need to do for your mental and physical health. Setting boundaries with people, technology, and all the things makes room,
Yeah,
and you create space for you to take care of
for
yourself.
sure. That is a good point. That it makes room for you to do the things you need to do. And I
Yeah.
that's a challenge for a lot of us because we feel like we got to do everything and we have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us who are minorities and who are women, we often have to carry family members on our backs for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
I feel like that is helping people to an extent where they are good enough to help themselves
Yeah.
is something that I am working on because I'm the oldest. I'm the eldest in my family, oldest of 7, and
Mm-hmm.
it has always been a thing to, you always gonna have somebody to help
Yeah.
because it's just that. But you're also like not making room for other things that you need to be doing in your life. And I've had to kind of sit with myself and be like, okay, you don't help these people enough. They need to go get their wings and fly on. And
Yeah.
you need to make the space in your, in all areas of your life
Mm-hmm.
for the things could or would be coming to you.
Yeah.
But you can't receive it because you too busy doing too many things, helping too many people, and it's like that can be a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
And making the space, making the room for the things that are necessary for your life is important.
It's very, very important. And I would encourage everyone when you're thinking about boundaries and the things we talked about plus other stuff, when you're thinking about that, what I would encourage you to do is to really examine how you value your time.
Yeah. Yep.
Because Danny and I talk a lot about time. Like all these things that we talk about, whether it's setting boundaries with clients, setting personal boundaries to make sure that you're being productive, whatever, consider your time. When you learn to value your time, our time, period,
Yeah.
your time, but just time, even other people's time. When you learn to value time, then boundaries will actually be a priority for you.
Exactly.
Because it's like the clear communication, right? So you want to clearly communicate with people even before you get on a call, especially if it's somebody you do not know. So it's a new client, a potential client, or somebody you're meeting. You want to be clear in your communication, and I've had to do this so that when you get on a call, you're getting to what you are talking about. You're not beating around the bush. You're not wasting time. It's not like you weren't productive. Same thing with prioritizing and
Yeah.
delegating.
Yeah.
Those things. Oh, go
No,
ahead.
no, I'm saying I'm agreeing.
Offloading things that you know what, I don't have to take over this task. She can do that. He can do that. They can do that better than I can. I'm going to give this off. I'm going to prioritize this. I'm going to take this off my list. This is not for right now. This is maybe for next quarter, maybe for next year, because you're making room for yourself. Same thing with technology, setting those boundaries. You're making time for yourself. Don't call me on no Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't work on Saturdays. That is the time for my
Yeah.
family. Like Saturday mornings, unless we're recording like we did Saturday, or you have something set in place, maybe not respond. And it's not that you're being rude. Maybe on Monday during business hours, you respond and say, "Hey, I saw your text come through, but I don't work, such and such time, whatever, and whatever day. That's for me or that's for my family. And so let's schedule something and do it via email." And then emotional boundaries too saves you time in order to prioritize yourself to do those things that invest in your well-being. So time is valuable. And
Yeah.
it's super important, and it should be at the top of your list to make time for yourself.
Absolutely. And I think when we start to value our own time, like it forces other people to value that,
Yes.
right? So I like when I started interviewing people for my podcast earlier this year, um, one of the things that I had to kind of sit with a little bit was like people wanted to interview whenever, however they like, on any day of the week, anytime, nighttime, 7 o'clock in the morning. No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Days, Saturdays are the only days that I can interview, and I can also
7 o'clock is crazy.
like, oh, I was in like another country or something. I don't forgot the country, but that don't got nothing to do with me. Like 11 o'clock my time, we can record, but 7 o'clock my time, no, no, I'm not. I'm not in the headspace. Even if I am awake,
Yeah.
doing that. So it's like when you start to put in place and say, "This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm not going to do."
Yeah.
You're interested, you can fall in line with this, or don't be interested. It just helps. Like it helps people all around to like be more respectful of like your time and the decisions that you're making.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really important. I feel like it's just a like wide ranging conversation
Yes.
and the areas in which boundaries need to be set. But for starters, like when you respect your own time, people will start to respect your time too.
For sure. And y'all, look, we're not telling y'all to go today and send an email to all your people and be like, "Look, this is what it's going to be moving forward."
Yeah.
But what we are saying is clearly communicate. You can do that in a way that is authentic to you and how you communicate, but take into consideration how people will receive how you communicate based on how they communicate, right? It's a lot of different moving pieces. And like Danny said, we hadn't even touched every area that you should be establishing boundaries. We should be establishing boundaries. We didn't talk about everything because it's forever. But what we are saying is value your time. Value the time that you need to reset, restart, refocus, unplug, get away from it all, smell the coffee ground so that you can be as creative as you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
What we are saying is that you need to sleep. You need to put your phone down. Stop scrolling sometimes. Even if you start off by giving yourself between 12 and 1 o'clock, or between whatever and whatever time, at any time after 6 o'clock, 6 to 9, I'm going to do this until you get used to the fact of prioritizing your time, which prioritizes your well-being.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
is the most important thing, because whether you are working for someone else and or working for yourself, you have to be able to take care of yourself. For in order for you to maximize what you do, you have to learn how to just be.
Mhm.
And setting boundaries teaches you how to just be, and it teaches other people too, because you're leading by
Exactly.
example. Like I've with that automatic reply that I received, when I started using it, I had other people commenting on it. They were like, "Oh my gosh, I love the fact that Wednesdays are your day to do whatever." And like, where did you get that idea? And I'm like, "Well, I've been thinking it, but I needed to read it, but from somebody else to be like, okay, this is how I need to exactly. This is how I need to communicate it, because I didn't know how to say it without being sounding rude." But now it gets everybody used to it. People will tell me, "Well, I know you don't schedule meetings on Mondays and Fridays, or I know you don't, respond on Mondays and Fridays, or whatever."
Yeah.
And so it teaches people the way you treat yourself and prioritize yourself will be the example to other people on how to value, prioritize, and treat you as well. It's not always easy to do, but it's necessary, right,
For
Danny?
sure. Absolutely. I mean, to become something, like the root word of become is to
Yes.
be. Like, what are the boundaries that you're setting? What are the things that you're choosing to do and not do? And how are you communicating that to other people, whether directly or indirectly? Like, we can't become whatever it is in life that we want to become until we are stabilized in who we are. And
Mm,
setting boundaries, even if it's a process for you, like it's been a process for me, is important, because you can never get to become that person or get those things if you can't be. You'll be all over the place and you'll not know how to handle it. So,
yeah. Fastest way to get to burnout.
oh yes, absolutely. Burnout is a whole nother.
That's a whole nother conversation that I actually want to pull somebody. We need to talk about that. I want to pull somebody into the conversation, because burnout is absolutely possible. I felt it. I've gone through it, and it does not feel good. And it takes some time for you to recover from it and bounce back. And so you want to avoid it as much as you can, and that's by being proactive and setting boundaries and putting things in place for it to be so. So I want to encourage everybody, if so, again, we touched on being, communicating clearly, prioritizing and delegating, setting technology boundaries, emotional boundaries, and physical and mental health boundaries. But if there are any other boundaries that you have set that does not fall into this, leave us a comment and let us know, because that might be something we need to implement in our own lives, and also other people who are visiting and watching as well.
Yes, absolutely. This has been a really good conversation, an extensive
Yeah.
conversation. So maybe there will be a
I, I hope so. And I'm actually about to start working on some boundaries right now, because with the projects that I'm working on, I don't want to get overwhelmed, and I want to make sure that I have the ability and the emotional capacity to clearly communicate with people. And so that's an exercise for me, which is why I'm inviting other people to share with us how they set boundaries and what type of boundaries they're setting, because I know that I need to set more. And so it'll be helpful for both of us. But thank you, Danny. It's always so good to talk to you. You
it,
know,
this is like, yeah, this is why it's important to have entrepreneurial friends. Like, if you're an entrepreneur,
yeah.
have friends, because you have you have someone that you can talk to and they get it. Like, Keocha gets it. Like, she understands.
Danny
Like, she
gets it too.
yes, it's very important, because I like building anything from the ground up. Like, literally, that is a whole entire spiritual process. Like,
Yes.
something from nothing, and
Yes.
need support. Like, we can talk about this for hours, but like the mental calisthenics and
Yeah.
emotional, the physical calisthenics that you have to go through to build something from scratch, you need friends that are doing the same thing, because it level set.
Ooh.
It makes you, like, for me, it when I'm like feeling like burnt out and like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I do this today again. Like, it's okay. Other people, they like 3 hours away. They doing it too. So yeah, y'all building it together. Like, it's
But
You're not the
But,
host. So is it?
but you're right though.
Yes, it's just important to like have those people like that are just they get it. Don't have to say much. They get it. They understand. Like y'all are living the same life. So
Whew.
I appreciate.
Yeah, I get it. It's a beautiful thing for people to get it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, gosh, it's so challenging.
Yes.
It's a,
Speaking of
it's,
free, I've had to not like reduce communication with people that don't understand.
yeah.
They don't. Well, like why you got to be up so early? Like why you always on your laptop? Why you doing this? It's a different type of ambition that goes with entrepreneurship that you most people don't get, because if they did, like everyone would be an entrepreneur, right? And so it's just good that there are people, the 1% of us that are
Who understand
understand,
the crazy.
like the craziness. They understand, like, okay, every day you're not gonna be 100, like it's not gonna be 100%, but that 70% is gonna be your 100% for that day, and it's okay. So it's very important. Get some friends that understand.
Yeah, get connected, man. Get connected to the right people that's going to encourage you and who, because it's so different, and it will show you a lot about yourself.
Oh,
You'll
oh
see where you are, like areas where you're strong. You're like, I'm good. I can hone in on this and get better. But this is like, I have these skills. That's cool. But it will definitely show you where you need to improve, and not just in your skills as a business owner on a professional side, but personally.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Some
because you're
things will
a
trigger
good
you.
person. Like
Exactly.
run a holistic business until you're a whole person. Like it's not just about professional success. It's about personal fulfillment as well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it goes together. So it you have to become a better and a grow person that's growing, because your business is not going to grow unless you're growing.
So very true. I always say personal development is professional development. If you're not growing, you're not taking care of yourself. I don't care how much money you're bringing in. Somewhere there's going to be a kink that throws everything off because you're not even taking care of you. So how can you think creatively through conflict management? How can you have a conversation with a team member or a client where you're not taking it personally as a personal attack? Because sometimes they are, but sometimes they're not. But if yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes they're not. It has nothing to do with you. Maybe, it's just a lot of things you have to be able to discern. You got to be able to know, like it's a lot that goes into it. And so, but none of that is possible to kind of move through, not necessarily easily, but move through and do what you need to do if you're not taking care of yourself. So that's what we're talking about. Uh, building and establishing boundaries, both in your professional and your personal lives, so that you can be the absolute best that you need to be, first for yourself, but also for your business. So thank you, Danny. It's always a good conversation with you. Now we're going to get on the phone later and then like talk about something else and be like, we should hop on a live.
A live for that. For sure. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, everybody have an amazing day. Please leave some comments. Let us know what boundary building blocks you use if you hadn't heard us talk about it. But even if you did, some things that we talked about, we would love to hear your comments, read your comments, and let us know what you think. Thank
Absolutely.
you, Danny.
Thank you, Keocha. This was wonderful. I'm sure we will be chatting soon.
Yes. Talk to you later.
Have a good rest.
You too.